Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us. And I know what you're thinking, and yes, this is a positive review. It's positive, okay? I just can't find my jersey at the moment, and I'm going to just dress in like this gothy attire to let you know that this is going to be a positive review. Okay, the jersey will be found. Okay, now back to the review. Vampire Weekend is a New York indie pop outfit, definitely the most well-known in terms of indie pop. They are so legendary at this point, dropping fantastic albums like Contra, Modern Vampires of the City, as they have crafted songs that are excellent, with influence of chamber pop, ska, with a undeniable Paul Simon Graceland influence. You cannot deny the Paul Simon Graceland influence. If you have not checked out Paul Simon, check out Graceland. Thank me later. Now, on this album, I was a little shaky to go into this due to the fact of how Father of the Bride, not a terrible album, but definitely not an album I would say is a great one. I just felt it was really bloated. Definitely a lot of tracks on there that had quirks that didn't exactly pan out, mostly due to Rossum's departure. But now they're taking risks, and now with Rossum back into the mix, back into co-producing this album, you are now getting what should have been on Father of the Bride. And honestly, I feel this is probably one of their best albums yet, as the quirks they're going for are working fantastically with their style. But I will say, given the singles to this, my hopes were pretty high. But I do realize that even though you get fantastic singles, it can definitely lead to duds in the deep cut section, but we didn't get that here. But allow me to tell you the singles that really raised my expectations. With Classical, with this jazzy upright bass that has these shrill key arpeggios, that goes into one of the most obscure, beautiful endings I've probably ever heard on a Vampire Weekend album. It's very unkempt, but it blends together so well. Not to mention the very optimal view of the protagonist that is going through all these hardships right now. And Capricorn, which has probably the most catchiest hook on this entire album. Capricorn, day that you are born. And I also love the vast differences within the sonic palettes here, as the progression goes from very pristine piano runs that are absolutely gorgeous, and the reverb gives it a very ghostly, beautiful quality to it that just mesmerizes me, with these gargantuan swells of instrumentation that are just roaring through the track, that leads into these wailing keys. And in terms of quirks that really pan out in my opinion, and in terms of songs that excel with the quirks, we definitely get more of a handful of those, like Connect with its angular drumming, blippy keys and grouped gospel vocals. I feel like the trickling pianos, the blippy keys, like the futuristic aspect of it, the very experimental aspect of it, which comes off to me as Vampire Weekend taking their orchestral chops and applying it to the studies of Flying Lotus. Also, the reversed melodies on the back end are insane. And there's also Mary Boone that has these choir-like vocal chants that breaks into these beautiful lavish strings over these chunky cycling beats. And I love the variation in the choir vocals that just breaks into a very beautiful, enchanting choir. And there's a lot of gorgeous, epic builds that really captivate me on this album, like on the opener, Ice Cream Piano. But also thematically, I've noticed how there is talk of war, be it culture war, be it war against capitalism, war against communism, societal ills, like on Prep School Gangsters, which has these twangy guitars with these sparkling arpeggios, cavernous bass. It's like Vampire Weekend are really doing revivalism of their own sound, and it sounds amazing. Provided by Ezra's beautiful, angelic, boyish, theatrical vocals. And I would say thematically, we are dealing with the societal wars and the rebellion to oppression, with the prep school kids, the prep school gangsters who enact bigotry, while the prep school gangsters enact and condone bigotry, misogyny, while those who are marginalized, rightfully so, see it as war. While it can be seen as survival and overcoming obstacles that society has problematically dished out, has these super bright keys playing against pumping sunburnt bass with these soaring backing vocals against these mesmerizing orchestral runs that really gives the track so much color. But when you listen to the lyrics here, it's not really that colorful at all, but I get it because there are parts of this that I didn't notice, how certain instrumentation sounds like machine guns in a way. And the message is even more powerful with protests against all types of war, which again does appear throughout this album, and calling out the toxic nature of political extremists who live for war. And also, there is also the talk of exposure of colonialism. And Pravda, which is another fantastic song, not only for its beautiful Spanish guitar line, but lyrically takes on subject matters of Russia and hardships while having these eternal battles of, do I stay here while there was communism, or do I live in America where there was capitalism? And it does make for an interesting contrast where the production is beautiful while the protagonist is put in a very ugly situation. And the 8-minute closer, which reflects on the consequences of those in power, the destructive and the destructive consequences of conflict, and hoping they could reach a compromise. It's pretty much a philosophical anti-war song. There's also conspiratorial bars laced in here, which aren't really too far-fetched. But of course, I do love the dreamy piano lines, its large, grand, adventurous horns. It's almost Floydian in a way. That goes into this heavy, distorted Psych passage in the end. Now, if you're a Vampire Weekend fan, as myself, you have to admit, okay, there are some duds in the track list. At least one or two. And I would say the ones on here are duds, not because they're annoying. I would say more for not mixed very well, or ideas that didn't exactly quite pan out. Like the Surfer. I feel on here there are parts of the instrumentation that are thin, like the synth horns. Even though I do like the tune here, and I do enjoy some of the melodies here, I don't think the plucky strings really add much, and they do sound kind of detuned and don't really add much to it, and the layered vocals don't really mesh well at all, and just leads for a very underwhelming cut. There's also Gen X Cops, where again I love the tune, but the compression, the pitch down vocals, I don't think coalesce well with the mains, and the robotic vocals at the end are kind of annoying, don't really do much for me, which is a shame because I do enjoy some of the melodies on this track, and had they not been there, I probably would have enjoyed it more. And lyrically, I do enjoy that aspect of it. But yeah, aside from that, this is a fantastic Vampire Weekend album. I would say their best since Contra. I feel the writing is fantastic, very creative with its writing, with its conceptual direction, even though it may not be as clear as you would hope it would be. There is a very big introspection here, a very interesting narrative here, a very interesting theme here. I think the instrumentation borders on very creative and also very beautiful at the same time, very stunning, very captivating, which is what I loved Vampire Weekend in the beginning for, and I feel they're doing that even more now, and I could only imagine what they could do in the future. But yeah, with these beautiful, compelling songs, it just makes for a fantastic album. And I'm feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this album, and I wish I had my jersey. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling it. How do you feel about this album? Do you love this album? Do you hate this album? Why? And that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Vampire Weekend, Only God Was Above Us. Till we meet again.